Where does the blame need to go, and does it even really matter?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. We got a little happy hour edition of the show. We hopped on with our guy, Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika This Morning earlier this week. Here is that conversation.
Zach, a couple of weeks ago, Hugh Freeze comes out, much to a lot of people's dismay, and says it's a quarterback's fault. It's the running back's fault. It's defense's fault. It's turnover issues. Well, how about this week? Are the players allowed to say, well, this falls on you, coach? These are some of the issues that maybe you could have avoided by handing the ball off to Hunter instead of putting it in the air or taking time off the clock and giving them a longer field to play with instead of being able to get down and get quickly. So does he harness the blame this time around?
I mean, I think he's been pretty transparent every step of the way. I think what he said on Monday at his press conference and even after the game on Saturday, he's like, yeah, we need to coach better. I mean, he's been pretty consistent with that. But I hate this narrative that Hugh Freeze just throws people under the bus. Like, would you rather have coach speak, or would you rather him actually answer the question of like what went wrong on a play instead of the coach speak, which is kind of what we got on Monday? Yeah, I just need to coach better. Or it's like, what's the issue? And then he breaks it down and he says like, this was the read. He did the wrong read. Like, I would much rather have honesty from a head coach than all this coach speak crap that we see everywhere else at every level of football. And I mean, he kind of joked about it on Monday when he's like, you know, whenever you guys ask me a question and I answer it and tell you what went wrong, y'all say I'm throwing people under the bus. So now I've got to be careful. He's not throwing people under the bus. It's
right.
Not a crazy thing to say, like a running back should hold on to the football and a quarterback shouldn't throw interceptions. Like, that's not a crazy thing to say. I don't get what we're doing here.
And I will say that I was one of those that tweeted out a couple of weeks ago. I was like, you can't have both. You can't say he needs more coach speak or I wish he would be more honest. And then when he's honest, you're not honest or you don't like it. Like you'd rather him go back to coach speak. You can't have both. Now, with that said, this past weekend's loss, I will say, yes, I had an issue. I'm not putting blame on running backs, but Damari Alston did not cover up that ball that he dropped inside the 5 a couple of weeks ago when he was in traffic. Of course, there's been some forced throws that have gone in, and who knows if Payton should have had more than one turnover this past Saturday because he also made another bad throw earlier in the game that probably should have been picked and was not.
He did have some batted passes and some questionable drops for sure. Yep.
But, you know, at the end of the day, I still say that this past weekend, if everybody wants to do the blame game, now he has said, let me go ahead and take Hugh's side on this for one thing. The weekend that he said we need better play out of the quarterbacks, we need better reads out of the quarterbacks, we need running backs to hold on the football, people like stopped the quote right there. He kept going and said, and we as coaches need to do a better job of putting them in a position to succeed.
That's happened a lot. Where the part where he says we've got to do better as coaches, it gets cut off often. That wasn't just a one-time thing for sure.
That doesn't sell clicks though when you're a news organization around, you know, North Alabama or over in Georgia or even Oklahoma for that.
You want to know why? Because it's coach speak.
Yeah.
And folks are asking him not to do that, which is ridiculous. It's crazy to me. Like Hugh Freeze pressers, when he's being honest, it actually means something. You can ask him what went wrong on the play. We actually get the answer. Mm-hmm. Like, how refreshing is that? Not many places have that. And so I think I'm not gonna be a hypocrite when it comes to hitting the coach for this, when I'd rather have this than you know, just normal coach speak. So as far as like players, Payton Thorne knows he messed up. Payton Thorne knows that he threw a pick 6 to lose that football game on Saturday. How do we know this? Because he said it after the game.
Yeah.
And on an interview with on the next round earlier today, he did say like, hey, I'd throw that same pass 10 out of 10 times, which means he believes in his heart that was the right play. He just didn't execute. And so like all these players know that they have to execute better for Auburn to close out these football games. But I don't think it's about throwing people under the bus and calling people out publicly.
Right.
It's, hey, this is what went wrong. We're aware of what went wrong and we're working to fix it. Oh, and by the way, and there's so many Auburn fans that are saying, hey, there's no like progress. Hugh Freeze isn't making this team better. I don't know what you're looking at. Like all that matters is wins for sure. But to say like there wasn't progress at the quarterback position from a few weeks ago to last week is crazy. Like Payton Thorne looked great with the exception of that pass, which was bad. The pick six was bad. It was devastating. I'm not defending it. But the whole body of work was better than it has been. This Auburn offense put up 480 yards against Oklahoma. This team, Ben, has the recipe to cause an upset at some point this season. I don't think it's this week against Georgia. But if you told me Auburn went on the road and beat Missouri or Kentucky, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't, because I think they have the makeup to do it. They just got to execute more consistently.
I said earlier this week, actually said this weekend after watching the game. Now, my father convinced me to say this.
Okay.
Unlike what you just
pull for.
Do what now?
What team does your father pull for?
Both Auburn and Alabama, because as he said, he cut a lot of checks to both schools. If I'm being honest, he's probably a Troy fan. He just, it's the fact that a lot of money went to both Auburn and to the cities of Auburn and Tuscaloosa with his two children. He wants to see both teams win until it gets. This is why I call him a closet Bama fan, is because when it becomes Auburn and Alabama playing one another in the Iron Bowl, he's pulling for Alabama.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
And I totally say the reason he does that is because he loves my sister way more than he loves me. And I'm totally okay with that. I don't blame him. I get it.
I don't blame him. 100%.
I totally get it. And so, but he made a great point. And as you said, you don't know if it's this weekend. I do think it can be this weekend. And here's a crazy reason why, is we're sitting here talking about Payton Thorne, the mistakes Payton Thorne's made. He's watching that game. He looks at me and he goes, there's a lot of pressure under that quarterback, on that quarterback's shoulders. He's like, I think it's going to do him good to get away from Auburn, get away from Jordan-Hare Stadium, and be able to be himself on the road somewhere. And it could happen this weekend at Georgia.
Maybe. You're talking about pressure as far as like expectations, not
expectations.
Like,
yeah, I mean, because
listen,
he can say what he says about don't look at your phone. He mentioned that to Hank. My advice is don't look at your phone. You can't tell me that Payton doesn't hear the boos. He doesn't hear the sneers and the snickers that are going on within the stands and the friendly confines. He ain't going to get that at Georgia. He ain't going to get that at Kentucky. He ain't going to get that at Missouri.
Well, I mean, he'll get negative cheers, but I mean, you're supposed to. You're on the road in the SEC.
Right.
You're not supposed to get that at home. So, sure. I'm not going to push back much on that. All right, let's touch on this upcoming game this Saturday, because it sounds like you're more optimistic on it than I am. So let's jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Roy. Roy stands for Return on You, Ben. They it allows fans to give directly to the players, and it's at no risk because the player doesn't get the first bit of installments until after the portal window. So it's going to allow folks to say, hey, like if you stay, you get all this money from Auburn fans, which is pretty cool. So they've got a Roy Player of the Week. I chose Demarcus Riddick. I
think that's a fantastic choice.
He was exceptional.
He was on the field 50% of the time and led the team in tackles.
Yeah. So my understanding of this is Roy's giving $100 in Demarcus Riddick's account. So on Roy. So you can download the Roy app for iOS or Android. Enter referral code Locked On, and you'll be automatically entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. So get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Ben, can you imagine wagering anywhere than with our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook?
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Auburn is a 24.5 point dog. Last I checked.
Shocking.
I weirdly I think I would take Auburn to cover that.
I would
actually.
take Auburn to cover that in a heartbeat.
Not taking Auburn to win, but I would take Auburn to cover. And then the over-under is 52.5. I think I'm taking the under on that. So take that for what it's worth. Not financial advice at all. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com/locked on. Ben Taylor.
Yes.
Hanging out with us every single week. The everydayers know him well. You seem more confident about Auburn going to Athens than I do. Why is that?
From what I saw out of Alabama, Georgia's defense does not – don't get me wrong, Alabama's offense is really good. But Georgia's defense really kind of shocked me that Alabama could have done what they wanted to do in the first half. And honestly, if DeBoer doesn't pull back the reins a little bit and start just going Jalen Milroe right and Jalen Milroe left in the second half, I still think they could have done what they wanted to Georgia in the second half. Now, the scary part is clearly Georgia's offense can stall at times. It did against Kentucky. It was non-existent in the first half against Alabama. And I believe with people like you talked about during the sponsor read with Riddick coming in and playing a little bit more, that there's an opportunity for this defense to really shine on Saturday against an offense that can tend to stutter and be stagnant from time to time. And if Auburn's offense continues to put up close to 500 yards in total offense, there's a chance, especially when you talk about that line being at 23-24, I just don't see that happening because Auburn can clearly put up the numbers. They just got to get their butts in the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this defense is going to be fine. I think Auburn's defense is going to be okay. It's just how much are they going to be on the field? Because Georgia can just physically outmatch you. And over the course of 60 minutes, if Georgia has the ball for 35 to 40 minutes of game time, like I do think that'll be a problem. So we'll see. I mean, this Auburn offense, despite the narrative around it, they have been able to, I just pulled this out. They, hold on. All right. They've moved the ball on everybody, and they've moved the ball like via explosive plays against everybody. And like this Georgia defense is going to be the best defense Auburn's played. But with the way the offense looked against the Oklahoma defense, I certainly think there's a chance that Auburn should be able to move the football against Georgia. I am concerned with it being away from Jordan-Hare Stadium. I know last segment you made the argument for it being better for Payton Thorne specifically. Yep. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I don't know if I fully agree with that. Just because early on in these big games, like we saw them struggle away from Jordan-Hare Stadium with the exception of Arkansas and Vanderbilt last year. I want to see what that looks like this year because, I mean, we don't know. It's crazy with this far into the season. We don't know what this team looks like outside of Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah, 5 in a row at home, I think has a tendency to actually maybe hurt a team because of what you just said right there.
Well, and especially with us going 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, those are almost all of our home games now. So
because even in the past when we've been at home that much or what seems like that much, there usually was a neutral game at the beginning, maybe like a Chick-fil-A kickoff game or something where at least they had a little bit of a road test, even though it wasn't truly on the road. It may have been a neutral site test.
I wish Auburn played in a game like that every year.
Yeah.
A neutral site game in Atlanta or Nashville or Dallas, something like that. I think that's good for the fan base.
That had very Mel Kiper vibes right there. Either Nashville or Dallas. Like you sounded just like Kiper.
You think?
Yeah. That was good.
All right.
That was good. But
it's pretty good. So I'll take
it. I will say though, I think this is their opportunity because the freshmen, you don't know what you don't know. So all the young ones that both defensively and offensively, they're just kind of going to be wide-eyed 18 and having a good time, man. I mean, I think they're going to, if it affects anybody, I think it affects like veterans that have been in this type of atmosphere more than it affects them just because they're just going to be like, throw me the ball. Or somebody like Jarquez, I don't think it's going to affect him at all. Just give me the ball. Let me run the rock. And so I like our chances in Georgia for those reasons. And we may get smoked by 35. I don't know. But I do think that there's an opportunity for Auburn to, because this would be typical Auburn, Zach. This would be, you'd look bad, and then all of a sudden they play a team like a Georgia or a top-ranked Missouri or who now has proven to be a fairly decent ranked Kentucky team, and win 3 of those games, and everybody go, what in the world is going on? They lost to Cal, they lose to Arkansas, and then they go out and do this. But that is what we as a fan base have gotten used to with Auburn games in the past.
Yeah, but also this could be a game where Auburn is up. If Auburn's up 10 points in the fourth quarter, let's just dream for a second. I still don't trust them to win the game.
No,
at this point.
I'm with you. I think that seeps into the head of some of the players too, because it has happened thus far in the past. So I really, it's one of those things where I think that they'd either have to come from behind to win, which I think they can possibly do. They seem
no way.
You don't think
no
so?
No way.
Yeah,
dude.
I think they have to come from, and I'm not talking like a huge comeback win. I'm talking it being tight in the fourth, them down 3, down 4, down 5, and being able to punch one in at the end.
I mean, that would be so great for this program, for this team, and the development of some of these young guys, but just the lack of composure at key points of the roster this year. I guess that's why it would be big, because maybe it shows a turning point, but I don't know. We'll see.
It's going to take a great running day by Damari and Jarquez, in my opinion. I think Malcolm Simmons has an opportunity to shine against a team like Georgia, just because
I hope so.
People will be able to see what kind of athlete he is. And then, man, let's get Riddick back out on the field more. Let's let him see more than 50% of the plays on defense this time around.
Yeah, he was
special,
incredible.
Man.
And then, of course, Riddick picked Auburn over Georgia. There was a lot of smoke that Georgia was going to come in at the last second and flip them. Not flip them, but steal his commitment away, I guess. Yeah, and thankfully that didn't happen. So maybe it'll mean a little extra for him too. So, yeah, give them all the reps. No question about it. Ben Taylor, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Weekdays, 6 to 9, News Talk WANI in the Auburn Opelika area, online at aunetwork.com. Hit the WANI logo, and you can catch it there. Sports every single morning just after 7.
Yes, be sure to give him some love. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.